Alright, fellas, Acura T, I'll build it here. So clean up the magnet and drop it in just like that. When you put on the other part, it'll keep it in place. And this will pick up all the crud because it's going to be like this. So this will be on the very bottom, right next to the drain plug. And so I think there's supposed to be something here that I don't remember taking out. So I'm going to go to the other transmission and fish that out. So here's one important thing: if you're swapping the clutch cap and the clutch case, when the differential right here, the LSD sits right here, there's race bearings here. These are basically shims that vary in thickness, and it depends on, especially since I'm going from one type to another, you want to measure these. So I can't really get my caliper in there, so I'll do some crude measurement that I've already measured, and it seems to be exactly the same. So you basically take a plug gapper and you put it up against it and you put it down flat. I don't know if you can see it well, but you basically keep going until it's flush. And flush on this thing was what I had to call. Was like, what was it? Like, you should take your nail and keep going until you feel it's flush. And flush was like 80 something, somewhere around there. You can also eyeball it. 80, just over 80, about 80. So 0.080 right here, that right there, that measurement. And these are like 50 cents at Harbor Freight or something in their bin. And then you go to this one and you see if it sits flush, and you set it down. And this is very crude, but like, this is how you can tell. And this way you can, we're going to test the preload anyways, and I'll show you how that procedure works and like an easy way to do it. But basically, it's hard to do with one hand. I'm measuring it with my nail here, and it sits flush. It seems to be exactly like the other one. Kind of hard to measure it. But I need to take these off. These bolts look so much nicer on the original transmission because they started using other bolts. I think 04 to 06 they were using these galvanized ones, and afterwards they started using like the regular steel ones. I don't know why, but sometimes I like transfer them over just because they look nicer. But we're going to see if there's anything here, because on Acura Parts Warehouse, if you don't have the Helms manual that you can get on manualslive.com, you can see what's there. And there's supposed to be some spring and like a washer there. So I'm going to take that off and see if it's a fit. So next scene you'll see the plate off. So after removing the 3 screws, right here, here, and here, I take off the plate, and you can immediately see that there's some sort of spring right there that I didn't see on the other one. So should also be on the bottom there some sort of ring or something, maybe not, but there's definitely a spring here. So we're going to take that spring and translocate it to the other one. Let's see, to the side, get some, oh, there's a ball bearing, that's what it is. I'm going to put it down for a second and fish out that ball bearing. Okay, and that's that. So, I didn't see that on the other one. I wonder if I put that on the other build. Let's see. And there's these 2 notches here, right there and right there on those rings, and they're kind of like a quarter of 90 degrees to each other. And so I'm going to move that since it moves like this. Oh wait, it doesn't matter. Yeah, because it'll just keep moving, I guess. So I'm going to
put them 90 degrees to each other anyways. I don't think it makes a difference, but we're going to do that. So I'm going to put this plate back and put these screws on loosely to mark that I have worked in this spot for next time, whenever that will be. So yeah, I'll show you what they look like in the next scene.
Alrighty fellas, so we've harvested this ball bearing and this spring that's supposed to go right here. So I'm going to take these back off and we will put those on because they look important. There's like a secondary channel there that goes through here and goes across to here, and it has some sort of overflow or some sort of function. I don't know. I'm not an expert, guys. I'm just an amateur enthusiast for Acura TL, and that's it. So I don't claim to be an expert of any kind. I just... Wait a minute. Wait a tick. Is there something here? It's different than the other one, damn it. So we can take that note. So, but this is an 0708. See, it says UA7 right here. So this is 708, and that one's not. And I'm looking at the schematic here, and that's, I put it down as a Type S, and it says that it's there. So let's see. So here's that plate, and here's that, and the ball bearing, and that's supposed to go. I see. Okay, and that's supposed to go right there. That's weird because the other plate covers it. This one doesn't. It's really. I'll figure this out. All right, fellas. So there's a caveat here. So on the UA7, there's supposed to be another hole right here, and there's not one. So they must have redesigned this. So when you guys are rebuilding it, just know that that's different. The UA7 doesn't have that hole, but if you go over here, I'll get a screwdriver because I dropped the screw here. Fish it out. If you go over here, on this one, this is the UA6. UA6, if you see that. So on that one, there's a hole here. See, there's that hole there, there's that channel, and there's a hole here. But there's not on the other one. So we don't need that because they have changed that design, which is kind of odd. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that ball bearing screw or a spring back there and leave it alone here, and we're done with this portion here. Alrighty, so with that little tab down that goes in there, this one I put back in, nice and spinny, doing its thing. So this one, the PG1, that's for this one right here, and you basically dip it first into the oil, into the gear oil, and then you can basically push it on. So it's almost all the way in. You want to get it in all the way. And let's see, we've got POX for this one, and wait a minute, oh shit, I hope I didn't mix these up. They aren't the same. And the POZ, so I think the POZ is this one. And 17, this is on Acura Parts Warehouse. POZ, so yes, POZ. Can I get a better look at that? So, I may have mixed them up. So we've got, I know it looks like that on that side. Here's the other side. Okay, so the other side's got those little things. So let's see what has those things. So we flip this, see these has these little notches. Those notches are not on that picture, but these notches are. So this is the one that we need. So we take these, and those notches match up right here. See that? So that's the POZ. We had it in the right place. So what you do is you finish putting this one in, and then we flip this. What's the orientation? It's nice to have another one here because the orientation is like so.
Yeah, with those divots we were just pointing, facing out. So this lip faces out like this. So it goes in like that. So we take this, we flip it. So I gotta flip it off camera. Stuff's falling out. It's okay. Okay. So we flip it, and now we have this right here. Should probably undo that and clean that out as well. So we've cleaned, I cleaned as good as possible. So this thing right here, with these things with this lip right here sticking outward. So we dip into here, get all excess off. See, it fits perfectly. That one probably wouldn't have fit so nice. And you just push. So I'm going to push this one in and the other one, and then we'll go to clean this one and see what's there. Okay, so I took this plate off, just like so, and it's pretty gunky in there, both sides. So now I've cleaned it, and it's just the tube. It's like a breathing tube that goes from this, from the inside of the transmission case or cap to here. Basically, I guess just for it to kind of has two little breathing holes right here, and I guess it just kind of keeps the pressure even. So now I'm gonna put that one back and then put on that other seal. So I got this tool from Power Rev Racing right here. It's to put on seals. I think this was for like camshaft, but if you flip it over, it fits quite well onto this, and then you can just push down and it seats. Not all the way. Just gonna put a little more pressure on it. So let's see. That's pretty good, pretty seated. Good to go. So that thing is now on. It is not going to leak. Seems pretty even on there. Okay, anyways. Okay, just make sure you don't damage that seal. So, yep, that one's on. Next. Alright guys, so this is the plug hole I'm putting back in. I cleaned it. I like my shit to be really nice stuff. And here, this was missing, so I basically grabbed one. It seems like just any one, whether it's the copper ones or the aluminum ones, with crush washer, they'll work just fine. So put one of these on, put this guy on. Thought I got all that dirt out. I'll re-clean that. So yeah, then you put this on. You don't have to crush the washer now. Just put. Hey fellas, so I packed this full of the high temp Honda grease. Put this away now. And back in the box. And pack this here, put the grease on here and here, because that's going to be the contact point right here. Put it there, put it there, and there, and onto that thing. And there's a little divot right there. Pack it into the divot, because then it'll kind of spread it out over time as it kind of like gets used up. And I put it around that thing. So, now we can put this on. So let's see if we can make it so you guys can see. Okay, like that. Okay, so basically this will pop out right here, and this goes just like when we took it off. Just like that. I should put a little grease right there. Borrow a little from here, and then put it on the sides here. This side here, see how it's kind of like worn? Because those are all contact points.
You want all those contact points to be nice and greased up. Okay, so this goes on here like so. It's going to ride like that. And it goes through here, and this thing will kind of like pop in. These will give. And this will pop in. If it doesn't, then you can take one off and then put it on. If you start from here, let's see how can so it's on. This gave. See, now it's on that ball, and voila, just like that. Now we have this moving just as it should. Now we'll go with the spinning, lock it up, push it out, it'll unclamp, and you have a functioning shift fork. Now just kind of, get that grease worked around. Put it as it kind of like just work it a little bit. And as it moves forward and backwards, it'll release some of the grease, and you can just shot on that. Over there, you don't need grease, so I'm going to transfer all that grease here. This thing doesn't spin, so that grease will just stay in place and be used up. And so just put as much as we can. Take it from out of here. Put it on these sides. Because over time, you want it to be nice and greased up for a long time. So, that's clean. Okay, so now that that thing is on, we can, I think it's a little early for that, but we can put this one on. Here, so you guys can see. You guys can see it? Barely? Here. I'll prop it. Better view. Okay, so we have this. This kind of goes on like so. Slips around. I put a little fresh motor oil on it just to keep it lubed up long term. And it just kind of slides on. And then when you're replacing it, you just basically take the old pieces out. If it's cracked up, make sure that none of the broken pieces fall inside. I mean, it's okay if it does, but you don't want it to. I mean, you theoretically could fish it out, but it'll be difficult with this on the car. So now, there it is. Boom. Looking nice. Okay. Now that we have that on, we can put it back down. Now that it's functioning nice, look at that. It'll be dust free. So now, I think we're getting close to being able to put all of these gears that are right here. I can move this from here. Make sure it's on a tray or something soft so you don't mar the mating surfaces. You gotta be very careful with that stuff, especially if you want to keep that stuff long term. I probably won't be using that, but if I ever need to, I'm in a race or something and I need to throw on a J32 engine just for the, the rest of the weekend or something, I can just swap it onto one of these and put it on J32 and swap over the clutch and flywheel and then keep the car running for the weekend. At least keep it running, even though it's probably not going to be the best engine. It's a great engine, fabulous engine, just probably not going to be a J35. So here are the rest of them. It's kind of tricky to do when you're putting it all together, but what you do is you take zip ties. That's what I'll do, and I'll show you. You put zip ties, and you zip tie these and the shift forks together, and you put them all in as one. And I believe everything else is ancillary and can be put on after the fact. So let's try and do that. Alright fellas, so what I did is I took zip ties, these here, kind of thicker, look pretty nice. And I took 3 of them and put one into the other and did 3 rows of them. I have 1 row right here, 2 row in the middle, and a 3rd row right here at the lower center, area. So you take this fork, make sure all of these can be centered like so. See how this is completely centered? So you take that, it should look like this. And you can move this like this. See, it moves. You just put it onto one, shift lever, and into the other. See that? I want to get these a little bit moist. We'll dual finger, and like so. I don't want that going in dry. Okay, so I got this one as well. And I also took and I did this one with the oil. Yeah, it's right here. This whole area. I didn't do this, but I did this right here. And a little bit on this bearing. Because this bearing is going on, or in, actually, rather. So, get this whole bearing lubed up. Because that bearing is going into there. This area we already lubed up previously. Okay, so you take those, put this, we'll put all here, here, and we're putting this one on as well. So this one should be lubed here, these corners here, and that edge right there. So I'll do that. Okay. And I've cleaned these all beforehand, so everything is nice and ready to go. So you put this onto here, like so, and you put this one with these facing up, because those ball bearings, remember we were careful to take these out, they'll be riding on this. So, and then we put it onto here. And previously, or just now lubed it, so it goes on like so. And then you take these zip ties and you zip tie all this whole thing. See, I'll need another one here. You zip tie this whole thing into place and make sure when you do that, all the gears are aligned. So if you put them together like so, see how they're aligned? Make sure they're all aligned. Each gear is going into the next. And you can actually roll it too. So, and then zip tie all this whole thing together. All this in place, and then you'll put it all in as one. So make sure it's together. Hey fellas. So, I took the zip ties, I put all this together. I put these gears symmetrically together. Now they are. See how all the gears are running off one another here? That's exactly what you want it to look like, all across the board. So, these are in place onto the shift forks are on the shifter. Oh fuck. See, this one's not on the shifter, so I'm gonna have to cut this one off, then put it onto the shifter. See, it should be looking like that. Okay, so I had to undo all of these and then tear the remainder off, and then use one more of these zip ties for each one. So I didn't have to put 4 zip ties again. It'd be a waste. So the reason I dip a little bit and get everything all lubed up, I looped this right here, this here, and I also dropped it in there, as you can see, so that way it just goes right in. The reason I don't just pour a bunch is because when we go to do the test for the preload on the LSD, we're gonna have to put it in this place, and when we do that, it'll start pouring out, and like I did that last time, and I wasted a lot of the fluid, and that stuff is like 16 bucks a quart on Amazon. So I just don't like wasting it, and you don't necessarily need to be globbing it, just put, you know, a decent amount in each area. So I'm gonna, now that it's all on the forks and in place, I am going to pick this up like so, and we will set it in place into here. I'll try to capture it on tape. Never mind. So this goes into here, and this goes into here. This right here is the problem area. This will go pretty easily, but this one seems to have a little bit more struggle to get this one, and it has to go in just right because there's no tolerance between this right here and the bearing itself. So this you need to kind of like just jiggle it in, you know, just kind of ginger it in. Well, there you have it, fellas. So yeah, you just kind of wiggle it in, make sure these forks go into here, here, and here, and yeah, that goes into there, and you just kind of, it's really easy. So yeah, now that we have this in, everything else kind of like falls into place. So let's, hey guys, so there's one shim that I didn't take out from here. It's right there. It just fits right in there. this shim kind of faces up. See how it's not flat, it kind of has an upward shape. So that shim is right there. This even tells you the shim should be facing upward. There's a slight difference right here. See that gear? Kind of not perfectly mating. And so I figured that was because that shim was not there. So I put on all new of these. We'll take them off, and then we're going to put the shim on right there, at the bottom right there, and then put it all back. That's why we follow directions. Alright fellas, so when you're putting these in, put this one in first, take this one out. This thing goes in absolutely first because I try to put it in after putting this in, and you actually have to like lift this up just a little bit to kind of sneak it in. So this thing is first, the LCD, LSD, limited lift differential, then this, or then this, then this. But this thing goes in first. Make sure to lube, pour a little bit of lube on these bearings and the ones on the underside down there. And then I poured a little bit into each one of these 4 holes, so that way when we're doing the test, there's less resistance than there should be. Or there's the resistance that we need and not more than we need. I also lube these right here, just, that way. Now, you kind of check the shifting action. And when these are neutral, these have to be straight. Basically, they fall straight when they're on their side. It's kind of hard to test it when all the pressure is on like this. And that's why remember when we were taking this apart and that ring holds it in place and it goes bonk? So right now it's in that bonk position and it's like not wanting to move. So when it's actually on the ring, these all straighten out. All the gears straighten out because the cap itself is holding this. And then when it's on the side, it just runs as it should. So right now they're not really moving, but that's normal. And you just want to check that it shifts correct. I can't really shift it right now, but so basically, say it shifts, and it's easier to do when it's a stick. Shifts, put it back in a neutral position. This one shifts, put it back in neutral position, and when they're all in neutral position right now, it's a little bit off because it's not perfectly straight. So to the left. These right here will all be aligned. See, like if you actually put them together, they all align perfectly. There should be just one piece because this right here will be playing in there and forcing these to change. And we'll get to putting that one together now. It's coming together, guys. Alrighty, fellas, we're really in the weeds on this journey, aren't we? So, right here, take this up for you guys. I don't know if you guys can see this, I hope you can. So this spring right here, you have to overlap it and respring it. Put this post back in to this hole. So I take this, geez, I hope you guys can see this. With my hands. Okay, so you put this post back in. You take this spring, what I do is I start from here and then I overlap it like this and run it over this part here, and now it's under spring, under tension. And then I take this and see this here, put this piece into where the spring is tensioned, right here. Put it right into there. See, this goes into here, and then right into that. I can't do it with one hand, but yeah, there he goes. Okay, and then this part right here, see where it curves? All those, remember those flat teeth right here, the shifting forks? All of those have to be perfectly onto here. So take this, and you kind of lift the shift forks and pop it right in. And see if that's in my hand.
happens every single time.
But right here, see how all those are onto those? And now it can move around on these, and that's easier once there's no gravity on it and it's sideways than this shifts as it should. But right now it's kind of under tension. So when we take this one and pop this one, where does this go? I don't know. Something like this, something like so. And let me look at the helms. Basically it pops in like that, and yes, so after checking the helms, this little thing right here, you go and put it right into there. And it'll go right into between all these shift forks. Remember it's all straight. You put it linearly into that thing. Then of course lube up these posts. All of this should be lubed, and I will. And then just straighten it up and pop it right into place. Now we have this mechanism. Dang it. So don't forget to so this right here, see that right there? That thing needs to be in there, and that's what actually shifts, or part of the shifting. So this needs to be in there. So I'm going to take that off and put this. This should be facing up when I'm done. Okay. So see, this is facing up. When you're done, it has to be in here, and when you shift, see, this is what actually does the shifting action. So pour a little bit of this stuff. I need some more. Right, just pour it on top and make sure it goes into here, kind of, so everything's kind of lubricated. Not too much, but then we go to the next portion, which will be putting. What the hell is this? Uh-oh. I put it over there for a reason. It's one of the gears. Which one is it? Oh, I think it's this old gear right here. So, yep, it's the old third gear. So, yep, this was not needed. Next is going to be putting in these. Just basically just throwing it down here and onto wherever that hole is for the other one. Here, or we'll figure it out. The next is the reverse. So make sure that the assembly is correct. Check your helms if you need to. And then we have this right here, and this is for the reverse. All this here. So we'll move this gear out of the way, and we'll start putting the reverse together. Alrighty fellas, Acura tail builder here. So the next step is the reverse gear. I dipped the fork, this, and I poured some onto here. And kind of worked it in. Basically just ride it on. So this right here is another one of those, just like we forgot, that shim that faces up. It's concaved. This one's also concaved, and you want this concaved upward. I reversed this thinking, oh, it should be flat, maybe it got screwed up, and no, it's actually purposely concaved. You can probably see it there. It has to aim up, and then you take this and you put it into there like this, along with the shift fork with these aiming upward. So I didn't do that on that one, and it's kind of hard to shift. It still shifts, but it's hard to find it because that shim. So that one shim being reversed makes it harder to shift. So I'm gonna have to pull that engine transmission and redo that. That'll be for the springtime. So because we are going to make this into a manual, and that's going to build this engine after this transmission is done, and removing the dash. That'll be a whole separate video. The dash loom, installing all the necessary pieces, cleaning that whole engine bay. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that's the winter. So I took this, I put the shift fork onto the shift lever, and just as one with both hands, I lift it up and put it on. Notice that the shim that's concaved is facing up and on the bottom there. So now that that's in, this will shift as it should, and now it's in neutral position. So I clean my hands. So let's see, I'm gonna place this here so we guys have some place to so I can work. It's really difficult to do both here. I understand why people don't make these. So
with this facing towards you, you put it on, and this goes into this lever here. I don't know if you can see it. This goes into this lever here, just like so. Just like that. So that onto there, that there, see what the hole is, and then that into that portion. That way you can with your shifter shift this up and down, in and out of manual or reverse. And then the final piece, let's put this into here. Okay. Anyways, that's supposed to go through, and it will. Just have to kind of shimmy it. So basically everything falls together. There's no like bolting down. It's all just put together, and what a wonderful design. And they're getting rid of this 6MT, or the manual. Ridiculous. This will last 100 years if you drive it correctly. Alrighty, so we put the oil tubes back on. Basically it should look like this, only sticking out this far, so when the cap comes on, it'll seal right into where it then distributes it into there. So, I want to show you guys kind of how it fits in. So if it's not like this, it's not right. It literally, so simple, it just falls in. It falls in and you find the center. And when you find the center, I'm going to root around a little bit. Should go in like ½ an inch, so there it goes. See, it just drops right in. This one, the helm says to aim it like so. So I just kind of aim it in line with this, like this. And then what I'm going to do next is, before I put on all the sealant, I'm going to put the cap back on, and we're going to test the preload on this to see if those race bearings, race bearings, I don't know, if the shim is correct. Because if it's not between 30 and 40 pounds foot torque, then we need to get a different shim, and we need to order one, which is like $5 or $8 a piece, and keep ordering them until we get the right distance to get that resistance. So let's put the cap back on and give it a try. Alright fellas, so I put the new seal in. Don't do what I do and push it all the way through, then you'll have to, so it'll just spin around in there. There is a gap between that. See, the gap will fall in that gap. So what you do is just make this seal flush with this surface. That's what you want to do, because it doesn't like seat in and then stop. It just keeps going and then pops right through. So what happened to me, I had to pull it out carefully and then reseat it. So just make it flush on the transmission cap. So what I didn't do when we did this disassembly is I didn't take this filter off. So it's kind of difficult because I didn't want to break this thing because it's aluminum and or mar anything. So you have to actually take it off kind of like flush. So I took it off. I kind of like put it to. What happened is, and what worked is I put oil around, and I kind of worked it a little bit. I put a screwdriver in, like so, and kind of like this way and that way and this way and that way, and kind of work that stuff in. And then I then moved this like this to the other side. It was really difficult. I didn't want to break it. And then there's like a little gap right here, so it was like that. I got just a little bit. So what I did was, can you see that? Yes. So I used this and pried it, and I stuck it into here where the rip is, and I did this, and I kind of did one of these jimmies, and slowly they went, and then it popped off. It took some time though, and some prying carefully, because you don't want to break it. You have to buy another one. And I cleaned everything in here now. This is still a good gasket, rubber seal, so I'll dip that, and actually I'm going to put it into regular motor oil. And it's still good, it still protrudes, so it's good to use again. There's also a spring here, and then when you take it off, there's going to be a spring there. Clean the spring, don't change the spring tension on it. Then to take this out, it's kind of difficult, so what I do is I go to this side, right here, and it is right there. So that filter's in there. Alright fellas, so I hope you can see this. So gotta push this thing in, and so let's see, I push it in and I have it in gear, and it's at 34. We need 30 to 40. So let's see, 30, 34, 35, 37, perfect, right? 30 to 40. And it starts moving at like 34, 35, 36, 37. That's exactly what we want. So to get one of these and not have to basically jimmy rig something, because otherwise you'll have to take the other axle that goes to this side, put it on this side, take like rubber or something and one of these and clamp it, I think it's this side here, yeah, and clamp it like this, and that way, and then turn the way to, it's going to turn reverse, so you want it up against this and have like a buddy hold it in place. That'll lock this side in place. When you have this side locked in place, then you go to this side and you kind of take the transmission, move it like this, and it'll be coming out right here. Take something and basically clamp it, not the splines of course. I guess you could just clamp this somehow, and maybe if you can clamp it and then like put a torque wrench on it, but you're not going to get the right reading because then it's not in the center, it has to be in the center. So I put a screw in here, basically put a very strong screw, fine threads, or maybe not, I don't know, something basically that goes into that hole, and then put a, once you get it locked on, that'll do at least 40 pounds. Then take a torque wrench and put it onto that screw and make sure this side is locked in place and not moving, and then put it into gear, whichever gear, because it's gonna do the same LSD, the differential is gonna slip at the same no matter what gear it's in, because you're just stationary movement. So basically get a screw in there and then hope the screw doesn't come out. Basically push down the screw as you go, and then get a 30 to 40 reading. So basically this is from the UA6, this is from the UA7. See, it's from different cars, you can tell by the aluminum. And so basically you can get a reading that way. That way you don't have to buy this, but I recommend this. This is a good product. It's billet aluminum. I mean, you have to hold it down when you push, and you don't have to use this. I mean, we'll read it anyways. Yeah, you just basically, it locks into those teeth right there, into there, and gives you the reading. It's a really good tool. I like it, part of my tool set. So Brockway Engineering, you can find it on Acura, you can do a search for it. Eric Brockman, I believe his name is. He's a good guy, very knowledgeable. He's got a lot of really in-depth information about the TSX, TL, and a lot of things Acura. So you can ask him for one of these. He might make a batch. And the rest is from P2R. So these are my engine building tools. I've got more for the engine over there, but these are some of my primary ones here. And that's how you get the preload reading. Also, make sure to go to your Helms manual that you got on manualslib.com or Libs manuals, manualslib, Lib.com. Download the Acura TL 2004. It's like a 1276 page guide that basically the master techs use to work on your car. And so, what time is it? 4. Okay, so next I'll show you guys how to put the cap on with this right here. So this is kind of tricky because the cap won't go on until you get this on. And there's a way to do it. Basically you put these on, but not all the way.
just to where it holds it in place. There's still going to be a gap. And then you flip this down, upside down basically, you'll see. And then you pry this apart and shake it, and it'll basically fall into place. Then it's locked in, and the gears are all aligned. So are the forks, and basically shifts into all the gears. Look at that smooth shifting, butter smooth now, very nice. And we can turn it by hand if we want. Look at that hand turning, perfect. We don't even have all the lube in there yet. So yeah, that's how you do the preload, and I guess I don't have to, even though I measured them and they were the same, with handy dandy, I guess this crude garage method worked. You just take this and you get the reading of how thick it is, because this is a plug gapper is what it is, and see how it goes thin to thick. So what you do is you find the race bearing and you measure it with your thumb, make sure it's flush, then go to the other one, do the exact same thing and see if it's flush. If it's not flush, then there's a difference there, than the one that you're trying to swap out for. And if there's a difference, then you're probably going to have a preload bearing difference as well, which means it's going to slip at a different torque range, and you don't want that to happen, so you're going to have to do shims. Luckily I didn't have to do that. I think Acura makes them all a standard shim, and then if you need to then deviate from that over time, years down the line, then they make those shims that you buy and create, you know, more of a space to keep that 30 to 40 pounds preload. So yeah, that's the preload guide basically. It's pretty simple. I mean, it needs to be done. It's not as fun as putting together the tranny, but that test needs to be done. So next I'm going to take that out, take the cap off, clean the edges. We're gonna put new Honda Bond on, then put the cap on, lock this in place, and then torque these. I believe they're 16-pound torque, and torque them down. When you torque them, you want to go from like a star formation. It's quite a large star, but you see all around. Basically, you don't want to torque this side like this. This is not steel on steel, it's steel on aluminum, so you want to be very careful and develop the torque gradually as you go all around. So that's what we'll do next, and then after we do that, we'll just have all the sensors to put on correctly, and then because I didn't do it correctly on the other one, there's like 3 things I didn't do right on my first build. It works, but doesn't work quite like it should. So we'll remedy that at a later date. So yeah, just the sensors after we get the cap on, and you'll see how it does later. Alrighty fellas, so the preload is correct as we expected. So once again, we're going to take the cap off. I've already taken all the screws off, including this 14, don't forget it. So we're going to take that off. We're just going to pry those two, and you'll hear a click. And when you hear that, that means it's unhooked. And then we turn this to the left, and it allows us to lift it up and out. So just pry it. Okay. Okay, looks like it's already unhooked. See how it came out of that groove there? It's almost flush, just like last time. So now, turn this to the left. See, make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Okay, some gear to the left. There we go. See, you turn to the left and it pops right off. This one, the big one. Okay, and then you kind of like move the lever to work it out. Get a grip on this. So this is holding it back now. Don't want to force anything. This stuff kind of like. There we go. See, it just comes right off with a little bit of pressure. Little bit. Okay. So, let's put this back here. what we want to do now is we want to clean the mating surfaces, both sides, because if you have oil on them, it's going to leak prematurely. So, we want our Honda Bond. Honda Bond, don't we? Oh yeah. I usually put a little bit too much. You put as much as you want. So this is my brand new Honda Bond. Let's see, will this work? I think this will work. I can use it. So, and it has a tendency to like pour out of the backside here. I don't like that because you lose all your pressure. Oh, this is a brand new model. So let's pierce it. When you pierce it, make sure to clean off that thing because you'll have gunk on it. No big deal, but you know. So it's pierced. Gunk. So you don't mess up your tools. You want to use those long term. Okay, so I've got this on. Should actually cover it until I'm ready. So you don't want this dry, especially if you're going to use it many times. You don't want it to be all like hella dried out, you know, by your third use. So we just basically go around and we clean this. I go around the first time, and we also need to put these pin guides in as well. So also, I want to mention another character. His name is Bense, basically B-E-N-S-E, Bense. And you can find him on Acura or Instagram or Facebook, Bense. And he is the authority on Acura TL, and I think just Acura in general transmissions, particularly the Acura TL 3G. This guy, he is the master for the transmission. If you need your transmission done, go to Benze. Find him at Acura and other places. Just search for him. He also makes custom gears of different sizes, so you can change your gear ratio when you have to shift. It's amazing stuff. He's really deep into the transmission game. So give him a shout out if you need any transmission work done. If you can't do this yourself, he is the guy to go to get it done correctly. Nice. I'm glad I can clean off the shavings. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to. So when you're using that tool, the Brockway engineering tool, press down in on it because it is aluminum on steel and you're using 40 psi, and it's good to push down because it locks in place completely. Because see, it barely comes out because there's no depth here. It literally sits all the way down, but it pops out easily, so you have to push it down as you're turning and getting the 34 psi or pound square inch. Good. Okay, we got all that out. We got this clean. We're going to clean this one now. And then we're going to come back with alcohol and clean the mating surface with alcohol. This is going to be a little bit trickier to put on with these pin guides. I'm going to maybe get some more pin guides, because the ones that I have, they're not as good. Extra, these should work a little bit better. If they don't go in smoothly, then better just to take them out. So let's see. I want to clean this. So these pin guys right here, you want them in place because they help your transmission not pop when there's a lot of force going one way or the other. They help guide, but they also help keep everything in place. And stability is a good thing in many regards. So, mating surface, the majority of the oil you want off. Once you've done that, you come back with alcohol and make sure it's all off. And at this point, you should have You want to grab a clean one. At this point, you should have gotten all of the, scraped off all of the old stuff. It should have been like many, many steps ago. So I'm going to put a little dab of alcohol. Just rubbing alcohol, 70, 90. 90 is probably better, there's less water on it. So let me go back around with alcohol. And it'll dry. This is just to get any of the residual off. And I like to ensure that there's a good seal. It'd be so silly to build an engine transmission, be like, yeah, I built an engine transmission, and like the damn thing leaks, you know what I mean? It's kind of do it right the first time, and then you don't have to have a headache later. It goes with a lot of things, I guess, in life. It's hard to do sometimes, though. Okay, so mating surface, then I go back around and just kind of dry it. Okay. Residual off. Because at this point it's just basically water on there. And you just getting the water droplets off that aren't coming off because it's 70% isotropic alcohol and not 90%. So you want to use 90 if you're going to be using it in your garage. Okay, so we have that off. Now we put the dab on. Now we expose this. Oh, I guess you don't have to pierce, so you can. There's a piercing thing here. You just flip it upside down and pierce. There you go. So just cut it just to where it's a little bit. So basically, it says that the setting time for this is like 5 minutes. So you want to put this stuff on and get this thing on. So let's see. Let's start. It'll be on this side. I'll put this on top. So, okay, let's start. Yes, there's hardly coming out. Maybe I should have cut it more. So I'm going to put this stuff on and then I'll turn it back on. Alrighty fellas, so we got to work a little bit quickly here. I have all this stuff on. You see you want a little bit more. I put a little bit more on the bottom side than the top. And you have a solid bead all around. And you put it on. Okay, so let's see. We've got the cap. Everything is dialed in. I measured this distance from this oil drain tube, so that way, because you only have so much give here, to where you have it going on correctly every single time. So I have that thing to the left. Put the cap on. Oh shit! I need to put those pins on. Okay, so we got one pin. Let's see, which ones are the best ones? 2 pin. And this one looks like a good one. 3 pin. Okay. Now, put this on. You don't want to rush it because I've ruined a case once. The cap by rushing. So, basically, you want this to go on like so. Then you put this into the neutral position. This will travel its way up. Make sure everything's on there correctly. I hate the smell of this glue. Oh, it gives me a headache. Alright, so, are we doing everything correctly? Yes, everything is on correctly. Okay. Try not to touch that glue, because then you'll smear those glue lumps that you put on. Okay. Taking excess off your hands, because then you get it onto the thing. It's hard to take it off. sure that's on there correctly. So see in there. So it's hindering us here. Oh shit. So So the spring, it's on, but I need to put it onto this side. This is here. What's going on? Okay, it'd probably nice to read a bit. This came out. Okay. What else do we have? Just put a little bit of grease on everything. Grease never hurt. Make sure you don't have anything else on your hands. Okay, make sure you don't get it onto the edge of the cap. Okay. Oops. I don't want that on there. Okay. So, alright, everything else should be Gucci. Or whatever kids call it these days. Alright, you gotta move fast because it's dry. So you start from the left and then work your way up. I won't take any oil that I put on. So I absolutely do this with a buddy. Oh, there we go. Good. Okay. Locked in place. Helps when you put. So now that we have a gap here, what we can do is you'll see that right there. See how that's kind of almost flush? We just need to move it apart and it'll sit down a little bit there. So move it apart and it kind of will seat onto it. So what we do is we take all the bolts, put the bolts on, and put the bolts on. We put them on basically just to hold the cap on, and put them on to hold the cap on, and just for giggles. Okay, so what we'll do is, no, it doesn't go there. We'll do this right here. Most likely. Okay, so now I'm getting these on. This one. Put the nicer ones on top because they'll look better. So, and then we get all of these started. Take the 14. Get 14 started so you don't cross thread all of these. Okay, so get them all started. And then once they're all started, then you can just make sure you don't cross thread it and you make sure that you actually have them started. Glue stinks. Make sure you're in a ventilated area. Alright, my shorter bolt on. Okay, that one, that's a nice one, dang it. Put it on the bottom anyways. Okay, so now that we have them all started, then we take the gun and bring it close to the cap. Right now we're not torquing anything down. Oops. We're not torquing anything down right now. Just get them close to the cap. And you don't have to go in star formation because you're not torquing anything. We're just basically holding the cap on. We don't actually have to put all of them on. You can put like 4 or 5 on. But like, this will save a little bit of time. So you don't want to actually put any torque on this cap with these bolts, like at all. Because then you'll put pressure on that, not pin, but you'll put pressure on that clamp piece. So what we do is I put it right here, and I flip it upside down. Basically, where are my 2 screwdrivers? I flip it upside. You haven't even seen any of this, have you? Dang it, I pushed you guys out of the way, I'm sorry. So you put it like this, with this basically, it's 14. And you basically put it up against here. A couple of props. And then with some, okay, good. And now it's on. With some props, helps. See, and the cap is already on and it stays in place because I put all the screws on. But you don't want to actually torque any of them down, because if you start torquing them down, it'll put pressure on this and it won't lock into place. You'll have too much tension on it. So now that it's back in place, our glue's drying. See, it's back exactly where it was. You need to have the gravity pushed down, and that's how you lock it in place. Now we can start torquing these down. Now, I'm not actually putting the torque yet for to the spec. I'm merely putting that glue and making that seal. So I'm going in a star formation. Oops. Actually, star formation. You want to gradually bring that on. You want to do like one after another next to each other. One here, one on the other side, then another one there, one on the other side. That way. Okay, shifts good. Do this one. Okay. Another one somewhere here, yes. This way. See, it's starting to seal nice. Little by little it'll seal. There's that 14, the 14 fell. So. Sorry, I didn't realize that I moved the camera on you guys. So, yeah, we're now putting these down. And then, once you have them all mated down, just keep going around and doing the same thing. Because as you go around, they'll loosen. See how we clamp down all of them? But now that we're going around with loose again, that's because you're distributing that torque. That's what you want to be doing. Okay, now once we've basically created the seal already, then we come back and torque it down. And we're only doing like 8-9 psi here with the one chugga-dugga, whatever people call it. Okay. Okay. Alright, now that we have it sealed completely, cap is on. See, it spits out a little bit. This is what you want. You want there to be a little bit of excess. And I wouldn't even be taking that off. No reason, because it just helps that seal. See, there's a little bit less excess on top. That's because I put a little bit less. On the bottom, there's more, and you want that. Because if they're not, then you should be like, wait, did it move? Or did you smear some of it off? So that's what we want. Okay. So now we grab the. You can grab a torque wrench. I kind of can eyeball 16 pounds torque. So I'm just going to do this by hand, and you keep going over and over and over again, little by little. That way you get an even amount of torque. Okay, fellas, so I put this in. Make sure that this lip, the lip part, always sticks out on either side. That side and this side. So I put it in wrong. I had to take it out and put it in again. And make sure it's just flush. Don't recess it way in there. It'll hold just fine if it's flush. Not with this lip, but the actual seal itself. And let's see, we have flush on that side. And let's see, everything is buttoned up. Torqued it down. Battery died earlier. I'm taking off any excess, because once it dries, see, I'm leaving it kind of bubbled out, which is nice. Then the only thing left is for us to have to clean all this, so it's kind of junky looking. So don't let these get messed up. We're going to clean these up, put the sensors back in, and we've got ourselves a nice working transmission. So yeah, looks very nice, guys. I kind of like it. Not bad, right? So what did we do here? We took a UA7 Type S 6-speed transmission, made it into a UA6 transmission, redid all the internal gears, and by redid I mean we literally Frankensteined some UA7 parts, some UA6 parts, some Accord gear parts, and concoctions of all of that, whether it was synchros, gears, synchro shifters, everything, shaft, everything was kind of Frankenstein. But as you can see, you can take it from three cars, basically three different makes, not makes, but eras, basically, and types, and you can make it all work in one. I mean, in theory. Well, you can hand crank and turn the gears, but we'll see when we actually start the car and start driving it. So yeah, it's clean, it's Frankensteined, it works in theory, and yeah, we'll see how it goes when next one basically is putting all this back on, and then we have this one nice and buttoned up. Then we will start on the engine build. So the heads are already fully built. There's really nothing I need to do on them, except for how did you clean that yet? Basically, laptop didn't fall, thank God. Basically, yeah, the heads are done. I just need to build the block itself, and look how shiny those are. This is the best port and polish you've ever seen. Truly, you've never seen it better, at least on the TL. And you probably never will. Not saying, just saying. Too many hours went into polishing those with the best polishes. So yeah, just waiting on the rods that I need to order from P2R, and then we can assemble the block. Otherwise we have everything else. So when I got the pistons, the Trom pistons, the wrist pins, they didn't quite fit right, so I used the one for my Walbro, and they fit perfect. So I'm going to take the wrist pins that are now on the Walbro. We're not enlarging the cylinders, so we're just going to use this Walbro kit here, which is an 89.9 stock, or 89.5. 89.9 is a FM station, smooth jazz. And so we're going to take those wrist pins and we're going to file them down, and you take it to a machine shop, have them filed down to match this to the correct tolerance, and then we can put everything together, and that'll be pretty fun, I believe. And I'll show you guys how you can do the old garage method of, you won't need to, just like the race bearings, you won't need to measure them, but we're going to measure them anyways, because unless the block's really bad and you've put work onto it, these are basically plug and play, these rods and the crank bearings. They're good to go. But we're going to measure them, and I'll show you how it's done. You can buy these off Amazon for like 14 bucks. It's called a Plastigauge. It works pretty well. And you just flatten them down with the bolts, not all the way, you don't torque them because they stretch, and then you measure them, and then they're going to be within spec, and when they are, we'll put everything together, and yeah, it'll be good. We'll put the block together, made it to that transmission we're finishing, and then pull all this out, including the auto tranny on my original, now 182,000 mile vehicle, which my Accord is about to surpass, that I got 124,000 miles. So that'll be the highest mileage car, and that one has all maintenance done. And then, yeah, take this one out. That engine's still running good. Tranny's still, it's pretty good. It's holding up. I need to change the fluid though. The tranny's doing fine. It's the torque converter starting to go from just every time I drive this thing, all I do is just burnouts and drive it really hard. So at 182, after having two different superchargers on here, boosting it twice, it's kind of, the torque converter is going. So we'll pull all that out. We're going to get the correct mounts, because right now we just have the, oh wait, I already have the good mounts, so we don't need those mounts. We have that gutted high flow cat. We basically have what we need. Well, actually, I'm going to put those aside because I'm using the old school heads with the nice exhaust, and so it just looks better as well. And then we'll put that one on and put the engine in. Unfortunately, I want to take this out. I'm thinking about putting the Rotrex in, but we'll see. I might just put this onto that engine, and because it's a larger supercharger, it'll handle the larger engine by 0.3 liters. And I could buy a slightly smaller pulley and get it to 14 psi, 3-4 more psi on this. It'll still stay very cool because I have a really nice cooling plate and cooling system. And we can give it a try with this one with more power. It'll be basically at like 420 horsepower to the wheels. It'll be quite fast, and it'll be manual, so it'll be even faster than that actually. So I think that'd be fun. And then we could try that one out, and if not, then put the Rotrex on, or I could just put the Rotrex on my other TL and run it at like 9 to 10 psi, 11, and run at the track for next year. We'll see how this plays out during the winter, because I really like this supercharger. And then I can also put on my other system. I have another version 2 plate basically that moves it 1 inch this way, so it's more symmetrical, because kind of see how it's kind of slightly to the side, so basically it's 1 inch this way, so it's directly in the middle of the hood. It'll just look nicer. Yeah, and that's that, guys. Till next time when we put those sensors on. It's getting late. Have a good night.